EJ time, nigga. Fuck wrong with y'all, nigga. Yes, sir. Know what time it is. Big EJ time, nigga. Fuck wrong with y'all, nigga. Yes, sir.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. I gotta tell you guys, Errol Spence Jr. is in phenomenal shape, and he hasn't even had his fight announced. The truth. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, Patreon, channel donations, the good stuff. Sign up for Patreon below. Yeah. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to for the latest and greatest in boxing. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Head over to my Patreon. Link is in the description. It does help the channel when you guys click on that. As an independent creator, I try to get you guys that fire. So there's a few ways to help the channel. Patreon, join that, or the YouTube channel membership with the same perks. Or you can go to ESPN Plus, use my affiliate link in the description. That also helps the channel in a phenomenal way. UFC, they had a fight night yesterday with Calvin Kattar. Very good main event. You know, Kattar ended up winning. And yeah, you guys should enjoy ESPN Plus. They have a lot of docuseries, documentaries, things to keep you occupied during this stay-at-home time and, you know, reduced time being out in the public. Again, you can use my link if you'd like to support. Now let's talk about it. I just want to make this video. Errol Spence Jr., we don't know who he's going to fight. It's rumored that he's going to fight Danny Garcia. We know for a fact he was supposed to fight Danny Garcia the week before the Super Bowl, but he got into a horrendous accident. And, you know, that put him out of commission for a little while. But surprisingly, he really wasn't as banged up, you know, at least from the outside looking in. I don't know how he feels internally, but from the outside looking in, there were no broken bones and stuff. So him not being seatbelt and being ejected probably saved his life in the end. And, you know, he's looking like Superman. Obviously, I'm not suggesting he should, you know, try his hand with bad things again or make the same mistakes. But that's what it's looking like. He's like becoming an urban legend or whatnot, because it was a vicious wreck. Now, the purpose of the video is you guys seen the clips at the beginning, and Errol Spence, he's on the bike, which me personally, I can't speak for any of you guys. I don't remember the last time, because I've always followed Errol Spence. I've interviewed Errol Spence. I have covered several of his fights, even his hometown fight. I was at the Ocampo fight, Frisco at the Star, right by Dallas and whatnot, in Frisco, Texas. I went to the Mikey Garcia fight, which was just a spectacle. I covered Sean Porter, you know, before pre-pandemic stuff, you know, and I had a great time. And so I've been watching the career of Errol Spence even way back when he was fighting Hartley. I think the dude's name was Hartley, something like that. Guys like Barrera, the one that was trained by Juan Manuel Marquez's trainer, Nacho Beristain. He fought a guy named Barrera. So I've been watching Errol for a while, and I watched him grow as a fighter. And I wanted to make this video on how to make sure. So out of the whole time seeing Errol Spence and kind of following his page, I don't really remember, or even like a 24/7 type of show, not 24/7, but you guys get what I'm saying. One of those types of shows where they show the behind the scenes. I don't recall offhand him being on the bike. And it's not to say that he doesn't ride the bike before, but he's doing it now. And I like that, because I've seen like his stablemate and his buddy Jermell Charlo get on the actual cycle. I'm not talking about the stationary bikes that are at the gym. I'm talking about an actual like cycling bike. And again, I can't speak to this. If you guys in the comment section can think of like an All Access or Camp Life where he's on a bike off the top of my dome, and my memory is pretty good. I don't remember that being showcased, but I like it because that's great for your cardio, and that's it's just an great overall body workout. Get your wind up and stuff like that. And I like what it represents because me personally, I don't remember it. So he's possibly hasn't done it in a while, or he's going back to, what made him as a fighter. And it led to this video. You've seen him running at night with no shirt on, and he's already looking like he's leaned down, and he's definitely, I've covered several of his fights. I've seen him on the off season at other fights and stuff. He's got his weight down. I can tell. I don't know exactly how much he weighs, but it's not his, some of his off season weights. So respects to Errol Spence. And he also posted, and don't quote me verbatim, but I can show it on the screen for you guys. He says, "I love when people doubt me. I love to prove people wrong." Something to the effect on the picture with the cycling. So it led to this video, and I'm thinking, just being 100% honest, I told you Errol Spence coming back to the game, I would accept whatever he decided he wanted to do. If he wanted to go, as you see Crawford on the picture, if he said that's what I want to do, I'll be like, respect. If you want to fight Danny Garcia or Sean Porter rematch or Pacquiao, respect. Or if he wanted to take a tune-up, rest in peace to the Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant. If he wanted to fight a tune-up, I would respect that. I think he's owed a tune-up after having a tough schedule with undefeated Mikey Garcia and then the hard-to-beat Sean Porter. Sean Porter has respectable losses in the game. All of his losses are respectable, where he showed up, he was in shape, he's coming to fight. And he had a tough schedule and then a tougher situation, something that I know he didn't even expect, nobody expected outside of the ring with the wreckage and stuff. So Errol Spence is just a dog. Like, he's a dog because he did a recent interview or podcast or whatever, and he said, "I'm a shark. Throw me back in that water. Man down." He said, "Put me where I belong. Like, I don't belong, in the shallow end of the pool. Put me right back where the sharks are." So it's like, damn, okay, respects. Now, I remember this because I got footage from this. You see how ripped he is. This is him before the Chris Algieri fight. And he's very vascular, very ripped. And then this is where you started hearing the haters come out with all types of rumors and steroid rumors with no basis. They talking about, look at Errol's nipples and stuff like that, stuff like that. But not to deter and take away from what we're really here to talk about, is he was in crazy shape right there. And he was leaned down and he was really focused, and it translated to his performance because Chris Algieri had recently fought Pacquiao. I don't know if it was his fight right before Errol. I mean, I could look it up, but you guys could look it up too. Chris Algieri had recently fought Pacquiao. He got dropped a bunch of times, a gang of times, like 6 times or whatever. But when he fought Errol Spence, he got stopped and dropped a couple times and just like couldn't continue. Like he was getting, destroyed, decimated. And even though that wasn't a champion at the time or anything, that was big for Errol Spence's, his aura, if you will, because Errol Spence handled Chris Algieri in a fashion that Ruslan Provodnikov, a masterful puncher, big puncher, heavy-handed guy from Russia, and Pacquiao, they hurt Algieri, may have dropped him or whatever, but they couldn't put it all together and get him out of there. Meanwhile, Errol Spence did that. So he got a lot of respect. Same thing with the Bundu performance. People didn't want to fight Errol Spence, so he was left to have these kind of like known names that are floating around the division and these barometer tests. And he destroyed Bundu as well. Like, he did him bad. He looked like a doll. Like, that was Bundu. And that was right after the Olympics, so it did like a crazy amount of viewership. And Keith Thurman had previously fought Bundu, and he didn't do all that to Bundu. In fact, it went the distance after he hurt Bundu early. So I'm really curious to see Errol Spence with his back against the wall again, you know, because before he had something to prove. He was a challenger. People weren't even giving him an opportunity. They were like, nah, you know, I remember Keith Thurman. And it's funny to see Keith say all the stuff he's saying in recent interviews, saying Errol needs to leave the division if he don't fight me. It's like, bro, we watched the whole career. New media's covered everything you said, everything Errol was saying. Errol Spence is off Keith Thurman and not even really talking about the fight because Keith already played his hand. And he already showed, Errol Spence already smoked him out, you know, and once that's done, it's kind of irreversible. We already seen what transpired when the pressure mounted and Errol Spence kept calling out Keith Thurman. There was, at one point, there was seemingly no other name that fans were clamoring for and that Errol Spence was mentioning and kind of gunning for more than Keith Thurman at one point. Even Floyd Mayweather, the great Floyd Money Mayweather, easy work, motherfucker. I'm rich, motherfucker. Even the great Floyd Mayweather pushed for that fight. He said, Keith want to fight me. He need to fight Errol Spence. Get past one of my favorite up and coming fighters, Errol Spence. And then we can discuss it or whatever he said. And Keith didn't take him up on that. You know, just like when Floyd told Golden Boy and Ryan Garcia, he said, fight Rolly, and if you beat him, then you'll get Tank. You know, and Floyd got the money to do that and to put something up, but these fights didn't happen. So, needless to say, it just sounds crazy what Keith is talking about now. He's not a champion anymore. Errol's a unified champion. There's nobody at welterweight that got more belts than Errol right now. Keith Thurman was that guy that had 2 belts. But now you just lost a 41-year-old Pacquiao. It's up to my promoter, Bob Adam. You lost to Pacquiao. I believe my fight with my fight with the key. You know, you lost to Pacquiao, and then now you're talking crazy about Errol Spence, and you know that whole situation is weird because we all watched what happened when Errol Spence was pressuring Keith. And the fans and new media, my channel, other people were pressuring Keith. You know, he kind of went the other way. He ended up getting married and domesticated. Then he was like slap boxing in the streets of Nepal after he got married. He just didn't look like he wanted to fight Errol Spence. He said he was injured, but then he was throwing a baseball at a Florida game or something, Marlins game or something. I'm like, it's just how you slap boxing in Nepal. You're throwing out the first pitch at baseball games like you King Griffey or, you know, Randy Johnson or somebody throwing the ball. Now Keith Thurman is talking about he wants it bad and Errol got to leave the division. It just sounds insane to me, to be honest. But back to Errol Spence, he looks like he's getting back to that sweet spot. And I like this, and I like what this represents. For me, I think Errol Spence, the biggest thing is, and this is, you know, this is not my intention or hope, because I'm a big fan of underdog stories. I can't say that enough. I've always said that. And now underdog, Errol's kind of in that role, not based on his skill or where he left off in boxing. If he didn't get in that accident, he wouldn't really have any underdog story at all. But he's kind of has an underdog story because people still have doubts. People still have questions because he got in that situation and he got in that wreck. So people were like, nah, once you go through that, because like I have a friend that got shot a bunch of times and he lived. And the friend, like, he told me little stuff like sometimes his bone going upstairs and when the weather gets cold, just these little nuanced things. Sometimes there's fragments of bullet shell in him or whatever. So sometimes he has aches and pains and stuff like that. So people, we don't know what Errol feels internally. If he's like, you know, feeling the type of way, it's not like he's just going to come out and say, oh, I feel crummy, I don't feel good. You know what I'm saying? So people have doubts about Errol. And this has been a minute because he's earned his stripes in the boxing game. over a course of several years, like with the, starting off with the Bundus and the Algiris, boogeyman type of fights he was getting. Then he beat Brook, and then it was like full steam ahead, and it switched on quick. And along that way, I think Errol Spence lost some of his discipline that took him to the Olympics. And it's not even really what I think. He said that, in the podcast, Up in Smoke and stuff like that. So this is really the first time that Errol Spence, and it's not through boxing. So be clear on that. It's not that somebody whooped him or, the Sean Porter fight was great. I was at it, but he won. I think the knockdown really cemented the victory for him, but it was close. It was real close. Sean Porter, he has nothing to hold his head low about. But all in all, it was just a great fight. And I'm looking forward to see what's next with Errol Spence. But again, nobody in the ring has beaten him or really come close. I can't say Sean Porter came close. Sean Porter did. He probably came the closest. But you guys get what I'm saying. Errol Spence he got past it, and when it counted, boom, got the knockdown, stuff like that. So it's just crazy how the world works. Errol Spence's his situation, basically him being an underdog, it hasn't come at the hands of a fighter. It came at the hands of his mistake that he made outside the ring, But now the reality is set in. People have these doubts. They've seen the whole tape and all this stuff and know what happened. So now in their mind, they have to see that comeback fight. And Errol, being a dog, is taking one of the maximum challenges you can take. Danny Garcia, easily a number 5 or 6, top 6. And then the reason I say that is just it's a stacked division. You got Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao, Sean Porter, Keith Thurman. So somewhere, depending on who you put where, you would have to put Danny Garcia in the top 5 or 6. But that's a tough fight for anybody at welterweight. So props to Errol for being a dog, but it looks like he's going back to that gritty Errol, the one where he's fighting Algieri and the one that got him to the Olympics. And I think that's what happens when you have that come to Jesus type of life-altering thing, because before he was saying he was going through fat camps. So the first month or the first couple of weeks or whatever of camp was just dedicated solely to losing weight. But right now, his fight ain't even announced, and he already looks like he's in solid shape, and his weight is good. So that's cool. He can work on strategy. He can work on feeling right and stuff like that. And I just feel like he has a chip on his shoulder now. So we might be entering very interesting times, because Errol Spence might emerge looking more of a monster. Is possible, because I'm just being real. Let's just spitball this. Pause. Errol Spence, from all of his recent interviews, and see, this is what I like about what Errol Spence is saying. He won all of his fights. He's undefeated. So Errol getting in the accident and then doing podcast interviews and saying that he lacked discipline and keeping his weight down, I don't look at that as an excuse, because he won his fights. Usually people have to make excuses when they lose their fight, like, oh, I lost because I couldn't make weight, or this ain't my weight division anymore, or I was injured. You know what I'm saying? If you winning, you don't really have to say anything. You won, you got the belt, you carried on, unless you win in a controversial way. And I don't think he really did. Like I said, the knockdown kind of solidified the Sean Porter fight, because it was tooth and nail. And then Sean Porter got knocked down at the worst time. That wasn't like when Broner knocked down Sean Porter in the 12th, but Broner didn't do that much in the first half of the fight. He clinched and held a lot, and Sean Porter was working. So that knockdown really was pivotal and shifted the momentum. And Sean Porter was hurt by that. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of just screwed Sean Porter some of the prior work that he had done. So I'm just anxious to see what transpires. Like I said, Errol doesn't really have to make any excuse per se, because he was winning. He kept winning. So what that leads me to believe, since he doesn't have to make excuses because he's still the unified champion and he's a respected top guy, the number 1A, 1B, depending on where you put Crawford. He told you what was up. He said, I was shooting up too high in my weight in my off season, so I had to come back down. Now he looks like he went through something scary and thought about his family, thought about his daughters, thought about, you know, these different things, his career, whatever he thought about. Now he looked like he's tapped in. So it was very interesting to see. You know, I'm definitely watching this next fight for sure. And it's very interesting to see, because what that stipulates, and this is scary to think, that Errol Spence, he said before the Mikey fight, this is not my opinion. This is just me putting all the puzzle pieces together. But if you listen to recent interviews from Errol Spence, he said the Mikey Garcia fight and the Sean Porter fight, he ballooned up in weight. He said he was weighing like 190 or 189 or, you know, somewhere right around there. So you're pushing towards the 200 mark, right? And he dog walked Mikey Garcia. I was at the fight. He gave him every single round, every round. And he hurt him, almost stopped him in the 9th. I want to say it's the 9th. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the corner even admitted they were going to throw the towel in because it was looking ugly. Bubba Sparks, Jadakiss, it was looking ugly, bro. So he dogged him, even though he was a smaller person. He was coming up. He was in the snack program, and he has power. I still hear Jose Ramirez, I think, just recently said Mikey Garcia got more power than Pacquiao. And he sparred against Pacquiao several times. He was in the Philippines. Jose Ramirez was in the Philippines sparring with Pacquiao. And he sparred, obviously, in the Robert Garcia boxing gym with Robert's brother and his fighter, you know, Mikey Garcia. So we know Mikey has power. Errol ran through that task, passed with flying colors. Sean Porter, a bit more difficult, you know, but Sean Porter's not the tallest guy, just like Mikey Garcia. It was just Sean Porter had a better game plan, and he has a different style altogether, you know, athletic. And, you know, Errol might have underestimated the skill, because before the fight, he was saying, you lack skill, you fight like you drowning, you fight like you can't swim. You know, he was saying these types of things. But I think Errol Spence probably got a newfound respect for Sean Porter. His style is just ugly to deal with. You know, it just makes everybody have a tough night. But the point I'm making is this. He self-admits, even though winning those fights, especially the Mikey, looked easy. I'm not going to say it was easy, but he made it look easy. And then having a little more difficulty with Sean Porter, but getting through that and dropping him and putting a stamp on it. Basically, it's almost safe to say that he wasn't at the appropriate weight in his offseason, so he started the camp not in the best way. So that means to me that Errol Spence, we haven't really seen, since he's been a champion, him at 100%. You know, and boxing, I always say it is mental. Boxing is a mental game. It's mental more than it is physical. So if mentally Errol Spence was like, you know, eating good and living the millionaire life and partying a little bit, or kicking it up, like kicking it and staying out late, looking like that, right on time, you know, and not living the true fighter lifestyle, then it's safe to say that he beat Sean Porter and he beat Mikey Garcia on less than 100%. Now you have to talk to Errol Spence and to see what that was, 71, 75, 84. You know, I don't know what percentage he was on, but according to him, he was eating stuff like that. Like, you know, the flaming hot Cheetos and gaining too much weight. So imagine Errol Spence fighting Danny Garcia, coming off of an accident, and you see him on the cycle, you see him on the bike, you see him with his weight cut already, you know, most of the way made, versus him in the past. We might be entering an era of an even more dangerous Errol. But then the doubts are also fueling him. He got to be smart and, you know, fight the right type of fight, things like that. So it's either way, you're going to want to watch Errol Spence's comeback. But I just thought this was very interesting overall to see Errol Spence is keeping his weight down, and it looks like he's learning from his mistakes. So I got to give him credit for that. It takes a real man to admit fault, you know. It's like alpha male stuff. To do dirt or make mistakes or whatever. That's, anybody can be victim to that, but to learn from them, that's what, you know, this maturity. So I'm curious. I just want to make this video because Errol Spence got me curious. Like, if he beating guys up in the gym and he got his weight down, or when he didn't have his weight down, how are these fights gonna look? Is he gonna look more like the Chris Algieri appearance at the media day, like where he just looked hella crazy, super ripped? And I don't know. I'm anxious. I'm anxious because I've always been a fan of keeping your weight down as a professional fighter. If you're an engineer, you do like coding or something, you can weigh whatever you want. You sitting on a computer all day, but these guys are professional athletes and fighters, and it's just like the NFL. A lot of them NFL dudes, whether they know when the season's coming back and all that with the pandemic, a lot of them, the serious ones that are getting real paid, you know, they got to stay on track and keep their body fueled up and ready to go, you know. So I like this switching of the gears back to more of the hungry Errol, where he's managing his weight and now he has that chip on his shoulder, like he has something to prove. So I'm digging it. Sign me up for Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, or whatever's next. I'll wait for the official announcement, but it looks like that's what it could be. Let me know what you guys think, but you know, props to Errol for getting it right up here and at least doing the manly thing, in my opinion, trying to learn from the mistakes and correct that weight. So let me know what you guys think. I like it. He's running, he's cycling, and he hadn't even been announced. His fight ain't, you got to look at that. His fight ain't even been officially announced. And I know, you know, PBC probably gives them a little bit of knowledge and behind the scenes it could be done. But to the public, it's not even a deal. It's not a done deal until it's a done deal and PBC announces it and the man looks focused. And I think the pandemic could also help him as well, because it's giving everybody kind of that time to reset and channel in, see what's important to you. I know I have. I've looked at this pandemic and I'm like, what am I doing right? What can I improve on? What am I doing absolutely wrong? And it's helped me because this pandemic has forced me to slow down. Normally at full speed, when everything's normal, you're moving 1,000,000 miles a minute. I'm traveling, covering fights in New York and in Vegas, back and forth, in LA and stuff. Sometimes you don't stop to think, stop and smell the roses, because you're always on the go. Like, life is quick. But now, right now, this pandemic slowed everybody up. Businesses are slow and losing money. You know, YouTube, when the pandemic first started, had some issues where I couldn't even do a live stream, you know, so it took a minute for everything to catch up, and we're still not there. We're still not back to what we believed was our normal. So I think it's a good thing for everybody if you utilize this time. And from what I can see, I ain't talked to Errol or whatever, but what I can see, he looks tapped in and he looks dialed in. So let me know what you guys think. I can't wait to get back to big boxing, big fights. Errol Spence is definitely one of the leaders of the new school in terms of big boxing, popular fighter, and everyone's going to be watching. You know, we've got some poor fights that have been made since the pandemic has started. So I'm looking for some of the stars to come back, and Errol's one of them. And I've been checking and watching every day, seeing the little progress pictures and stuff, and he looks like he's doing his thing. So same thing with Danny Garcia. I haven't seen as much for Danny Garcia. Plus, Danny Garcia is Danny Garcia. He didn't just get in an accident. So, you know, I don't have as many of those same types of questions as I do with Errol. But it looks like Errol got that chip back on his shoulder and that hunger back. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Smash the like button if you love what I'm doing here, and hit the subscribe button if it's your first time. I drop daily content, do live streams. Normally when we're not in a pandemic, I cover fights, things of that sort. Give you some introspective thoughts on boxing, break it down, analyze it, you know. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego. Signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.